The train thundered along the track as I stood amidst a sea of strangers. Upon the screeching halt of the subway train, waves of new passengers crammed themselves into the passageway. Briefly, there was commotion in the air. Then, the same deafening silence. Again, I was alone, my mind subtly narrated by the rhythmic clanging of the train on its tracks. Today, however, this contemplation was short-lived. Between stations, the incessant humming of the train suddenly came to a stop. Bags fell to the floor from the impact. Silent conversation flooded the room. Moments later, the driver announced that there had been an accident involving another train a few stations ahead, upon which a collective groan reverberated among the passengers. To pass the time, I idly sifted through my schoolwork until I noticed an elderly man across the aisle. I'd assumed that he had been eyeing the seat behind me, but instead, he shuffled over to my seat, introduced himself, and asked about my studies. Then my passions, my hobbies, my experiences, my life. And before long, after I said all that I could, he shared his experiences in high school, how he'd met his lover, his life. Throughout it all, the strangers around us lifted their heads and tuned into the conversation, and when he had finished telling his story, they began telling their own. One spoke of their struggles regarding her father's dementia and tackling the inevitability of forgetting. Another spoke of his struggles living with terminal cancer, how he'd learned to persist and find meaning in the limited time he had left. What had prompted them to be so vulnerable with people they had never met, I couldn't say for certain, but it was as if time had paused, ephemerally unmasking the rich, vibrant lives of those around me. It had been nearly 4 hours since the accident when the driver announced the train was back in service. Laughter and relief filled the air, though I couldn't help but feel a bittersweet longing. To think that these were people I would normally have walked by without a thought. To think that these were people I would likely never see again. That evening, as the moon shone bright amidst the clouds, I stood on my balcony watching hundreds of apartment lights flicker on, gleaming brilliantly against the clear night sky. It was a fleeting glimpse into the lives and homes of hundreds of people whose names I'll never learn, whose ambitions and life experiences I'll never get to hear. Rather, I will remain a side character in the background of their story, a story as vivid, complex, and meaningful as my own.